both historically and also from scientists that do what we call these the analyze proxy records to look at longer periods of time prior to the historical record. And you can see that there is no great increase in these floods and these hurricanes and so forth. Again, they show either no change or whatever change is experienced is often just the opposite from what the models are projecting.
So I think one of the very important points that you made in your talk was that we could double the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, which, by the way, would still be a trace gas, right? Because it's such a small amount.
That's correct.
And there wouldn't be any adverse consequences, really. If that happened, the temperature would go up how much?
Well, the temperature will go up anywhere from a degree Celsius to maybe a degree Celsius. But again, that's speculative as well, because there are a number of feedbacks.
Even a double. We're talking about a double.
Yes, negative feedbacks predominate this Earth and the climate system. All right, and that's what keeps it within a range for humanity to live. It's been that way for millions of years for life on Earth.
That's a sophisticated term, negative feedbacks. I think it's above my pay grade. Go ahead.
Well, that means that if you have a forcing factor, the climate system does not amplify that factor. So if you have a warming, the climate system will amplify that warming and cause it to get even warmer.
Which is what they argue, right?
Correct.
That a little bit of increase in temperature will create more increase in temperature,
warming,
and more increase in temperature,
right,
etc.
But we know from the history of the Earth, negative feedbacks predominate. The Earth is not experiencing this massive ice house or this massive greenhouse, we could say. You look at the history, and that's just not the case based upon the variation in CO2 over geologic time.
Talking about the history of the world's climate, correct me if I'm mistaken, but we're in an interglacial period right now, which, as I understand it, means that we're headed towards a glacial period soon in geological terms, which means, I don't know, 20,000 or how many?
A lot less than that.
10,000 or...
So basically...
So that's another thing now. So maybe all this CO2 is a good thing, because it's going to get really cold soon.
That's right. So glacial periods last about 100,000 years. You'll have about 90 to 100,000 years of cooler temperatures of this glacial period, followed by about 10,000 years of warm periods. So about every third or fourth iteration of those glaciations, you'll get a little bit longer interglacial period that lasts about 1.5 times the normal.
So 15,000.
There's some speculation that the orbital parameters right now are similar to one of those that lasts 1.4 times or something like that. So it may be a little bit longer, but you have to think about it. Realistically and geologically, we are at the end of the current interglacial. We are. The warmest part of the current interglacial occurred about 5,000 years ago, and that was called the Holocene warm period. And since then, temperatures have been declining and declining, and that's why in the 1970s, people thought the next great ice age was coming on, because temperatures have been declining from that peak in the 1930s and 1940s and 50s.
That was the previous geological climate scare.
That was the scare, the worry, right. But if you
we're all going to freeze to death. Now we're all going to boil to death.
If you just look at history and periodicity, I'd place my bet that we're going to have an ice age coming. It's they happen like clockwork over the last 2 million years. We can see them happening over and over and over again.
Okay, Doctor, would you like to refer our viewers to get more information about your CO2 coalition and get them informed?
You bet. So there's the CO2 Coalition, which you can find at their website, co2coalition.org. And then also I run a website called CO2 Science. That's at co2science.org. And there you'll find a vast array of material, all including peer-reviewed scientific references, so that if you don't believe what I'm saying, you can look it up yourself and see what the scientists themselves have said.
That's what we like, a real scientist. Look it up yourself.
Appreciate it.
Great interview.